Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we are going to be talking about Bears arrests, soup best served cold, the Cubs and the White Sox, and whoever plays on the Blackhawks. We don't know. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Sure, the season is over, but that shouldn't stop you from heading on over to icehogs.com. Get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, how are you doing? We are recording this on a Saturday, which is unusual for us, but how are you doing on this fine Saturday?
Very, very good. The weather today was beautiful. I was able to get out to the driving range today and just soak up this wonderful, wonderful weather. So zero complaints here. Plenty of complaints for the sports teams in the city, but in terms of life and everything else, things are pretty good.
That's awesome. It's good to hear. So some things happened with the Blackhawks recently. And I know I have some thoughts, and I'm sure you have some thoughts as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's, it's the true realization of something that we knew was coming. And it's the fact that we truly are in a rebuild. Because look, we could have said we were in a rebuild for a few years under Stan Bowman the past few years. But you remember last offseason when they traded for Caleb Jones and they signed him to the extension and they brought in Seth Jones. Well, Caleb and Seth Jones, both of them. Caleb and Seth Jones. You bring them in. You bring in Marc-Andre Fleury. You bring in Tyler Johnson. You're getting Jonathan Toews back. And, look, I don't think you and I thought the team was going to be that great, but there were plenty of people, and I think with solid reason, saying, you know what, maybe this team will fight for a playoff spot. They were in a position where they weren't exactly contenders, but they were kind of trying to be. So it was kind of that retool while contend at the same time that just clearly did not work. But here we are. This is the definition of a rebuild. This next NHL season for the Blackhawks, this is a tanking year. This team is going to be bad on purpose. This is where we actually see a plan. And how we got to this plan, well, we saw some trades, some good, some very, very bad. I don't think everybody right now feels super great about it. But I think people realize where we are, if that makes sense. I mean, nobody's going to go into the season thinking that the Blackhawks will have a snowball's chance in hell of being anything competitive. They are going to be playing for the best possible chance to get the highest possible draft pick. If you want, this is 2012 Cubs tanking under Theo. This is what this is. This is 2017 White Sox have sold everybody tanking in the new Rick Hahn plan. This is the definition of a rebuild. We're in this now.
Yeah. As people want to talk about Bears being in a rebuild, the Bears are going to field a solid defense, and they have hopefully their future quarterback in place. So this is a different level of rebuild. That is a
transition.
yes, it is a transition because there was some pieces in place and they made a quick transition. And this, what the Blackhawks doing is, I believe the term scorched earth is probably fair.
Yeah. This is as close to a complete rebuild as you can get. And when I say close, I say that because as of right now, as of this recording on July 9th, Taves and Kane are still on this team. But other than that, everything else is getting sold.
I do not think Patrick Kane will be on this team at the start of the season.
I mean, the more talks you hear, the more possible it seems. I mean, with Taves, the problem is there. He doesn't have much value. He doesn't. Kane has value. Yes. Taves does not. They both have no trade clauses. But if they both waive those no trade clauses, are you going to get a deal for both? For Kane, I'm sure you could. For Taves, I don't know.
It's what's the point of trading Taves? And I say this because one is you're not going to get any value for him at all. You're probably going to have to package something with him to get him or eat most of the salary or something along those lines. And why not just get the best out of him? Do your best with him playing on your team. Patrick Kane, you can get something. I mean, he's still a point a game player. So you can definitely trade him and get something. The contract that I really wish they could have somehow traded with Seth Jones.
Yeah, that just wasn't happening. And look, I don't mind Seth Jones as a player being on the team, but the contract is ludicrous. And, you can only eat so much percentage of a contract. I mean, you really can. So even if you traded that contract, if you found somebody to take the minimal of what you can get for him, you're still paying your dues quite a bit over a long period of time.
That was one of the last Stan Bowman fuck yous to this team.
Okay, I have two theories. About that move. They both relate to the same thing. They both relate to the fact that Stan Bowman had to know that the hammer was coming down with the Kyle Beach stuff. He had to know, right? The way that was going.
I mean, he's not stupid. Okay, he's not good at being a general manager of hockey, but I don't think he's a stupid man. Like he had to be aware that this was coming,
right,
in some way, shape, or form, and that he would have to pay the piper.
Exactly. So you could look at it from a more logical way, I guess more of a more sensical way, to a more conspiracy way. The sensible way would be him saying, this is a desperation move to try to make something big happen that could maybe say, yeah, I know what happened in 2010, but look at this big move I made for the team. You can't fire me now. Obviously, that didn't work. It should have never worked, and I'm glad it didn't. Dude should have been out as soon as that stuff came out. But that's kind of that would kind of be a move that would say, yeah, that could be his thought process. The conspiracy way is that he was on his way out. He knew it. So here's a sabotage move. Fuck you. I'm out.
I probably see it somewhere in the middle, but closer to the first part. This was probably a desperation, but he knew he had to know somewhere in his head that it wasn't really going to matter. So who cares? Might as well just pay whatever to get things done so I can hang my hat on this. And he didn't care how it would impact the team. But I don't know. I to be a fly on the wall. And here's Kyle Davidson, my thing with him is he's been on this team with this team a long time. And you can only separate yourself from the previous general manager so far when you worked for him. That's why I wanted them to bring in somebody that was just an absolute clean slate. No association with the franchise, no association with the Kyle Beach stuff. No association with Stan Bowman. Start fresh. That's what I wish they would have done. Not a knock on Kyle Davidson. I just wish they would have just got a clean start, clean slate, and just been like, all right, the Stan Bowman washed. We are going scorched earth here. But we have no ties to the past regime.
No, I don't disagree with you. That's kind of what I wanted. I don't think Kyle Davidson is the same guy as Stan Bowman, but I do hear what you're saying, and I do kind of agree with you on that front. Nevertheless, though, Davidson, he's going to be the guy the next, 5+ years. This rebuild is going to take a very long time, a very, very, very long time. And what's scary about this, even if it's the right path, and frankly, I think it is, but how many rebuilds have we seen in the NHL go on just for years? Look at the Detroit Red Wings. They've been bad for a number of years now. And this is arguably still one of the top tier organizations in hockey. Yeah, Ken Holland brought them down a bit. And I think Steve Yzerman is very, very smart, but he can't turn things around right away either. Look at the Oilers. Do you remember how many years of just bottom of the barrel, bottom of the league, just crap they went through? That wasn't a 1 or 2 year thing. That went on for quite a while. These rebuilds in the NHL, they can take some time. Now, you can look at organizations like Colorado. They've done it right. They know how to scout. They know the right guys to get. They know how to develop. And that's what we want the Blackhawks to be. We want them to be that team that can scout correctly, that can develop correctly, because those are two things that the Hawks completely failed at over the past 5+ years. Let's be real.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so going into this NHL draft, the Blackhawks did not have a first round pick. Their number 6 overall pick was sent away in the Seth Jones trade. And
thanks, Stan.
Yeah. And so the Blackhawks were desperate to get into the first round to jumpstart this rebuild. So who's their blue chip trade piece?
Alex DeBrincat.
So he is moved to the Senators. And I don't know if that trade haul was enough for him.
I don't think it was.
I don't think so either.
I think that was a horrible trade.
But then you are able to get flip Kirby Dach for a top 15 pick.
And that was a great trade.
Yes.
I think that was a fantastic trade. I mean, it's funny because the DeBrincat trade sucked. Okay. It sucked. What made me mad about that is that Kyle Davidson went out and told you more or less that it would take a haul to get Alex DeBrincat. Well, he traded Alex DeBrincat. It wasn't a haul. If they would have at least gotten a first round pick next year in a draft that is much more hyped by hockey experts, I won't have been as upset. But the return they got for DeBrincat just was not good. It just wasn't. And we'll see what this kid turns out to be that they took at number 7. Kevin Korchinski, defenseman. We'll see.
And here's my thing is, so you got the number 7 pick. Oh, okay. Was it Was it a chump change of a trade? No, but it wasn't enough. But you got the number 7 overall pick. But I think by the standards of most hockey draft experts, this was a top 6 player draft. So you got the 7th pick in a 6-player draft.
Yeah. And again, that's why it would have, to me, at least been more worth trading DeBrincat if you would have gotten a pick in next year's draft, a much better projected draft. I think the other thing, too, that we have to keep in mind here is the fact that when you're trading an asset like this, we understand that he's going to be a restricted free agent next year. He's not under team control. We get that. But when you're a 24-year-old elite goal scorer, a guy that could put up 40 goals a season, you don't just want to sell that for chump change. And if you're going to get, and again, it's not chump change, but it's not enough. If you're going to get a return like that, then you almost want to say, keep him. You know, I mean, keep him, extend him. I know they're not going to be good for a while. I know that he would be playing on a lot of bad teams, but it would be something to at least build around if you're not going to get a big return.
The reports I'm hearing were the Blackhawks were fearful that they would not be able to extend him.
Which, okay.
And if that's a reasonable fear, then you've got to get something for him. And if that's the best that was being offered, because I mean, you were in a predicament because everybody knew you were going to trade Alex DeBrincat. So that makes it a buyer's market almost. Everybody knows you're the hand you're playing. And so it was a tough pill to swallow. But
as upset as I was about it, I have come to terms with it. Even with all these circumstances, you're not going to convince me yet that it was enough for him. But with all that being said, it is what it is. I mean, regardless if it's a DeBrincat or not, you're not going to be good. That's the sheer reality of it. You're not going to be good for another few years.
Right. And you made three trades that day. And I was not happy about the DeBrincat trade. I was beyond excited about the Kirby Dach trade.
Oh, I was thrilled.
And listen, you know, who knows? Kirby Dach may figure it out and blossom and be good. I don't think he was going to do with the Blackhawks.
I agree.
So
I agree.
If he winds up being good, Blackhawks fans, don't feel sour grapes. It's just he needed to be. I think the Blackhawks organization didn't do him any favors, and he needed to be somewhere else.
His development was completely fucked by the organization.
Because they were so desperate for him to make it and prove that they know how to draft and develop.
Even though you passed on the defenseman that Colorado got who won a Stanley Cup with them.
Yes.
Fucking Stan Bowman. Anyway.
And then you make another trade where you actually get your goalie. And Peter Mrazek.
I want to talk about him because I think there's something really important to keep in mind here with Peter Mrazek. He was hurt a lot last year. He wasn't very good last year. This is a guy that's overall had a very nice career, and it earned him a big contract, which is why Toronto dumped him. This is your innings eater. This is your bridge goaltender.
Mm-hmm.
This is a perfectly fine move, even if you're taking on some salary. Salary cap doesn't matter right now. You're losing on purpose. Yeah. You need someone to play between the pipes.
This was the Blackhawks utilizing the cap space they have to buy draft capital. So they got their goalie, and you're right. Absolutely. This is a guy that if he comes back healthy is fine. Maybe even above fine.
Sure.
Fine plus. So you get a goalie that is an NHL caliber goalie. Plus the 25th overall pick.
That was a great trade. I thought it was
Excellent trade.
perfect.
And you trade it for the 39th pick.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
You move a second round pick for a first round pick and a player. That was an exceptional move. Very happy with. So 2 out of the 3 moves, very happy with. And I remember, one of the hockey Twitter followers people I follow, when there was the rumors that the Blackhawks wanted a top 15 pick for Kirby Dach, he replied, "Who in their right mind is going to give a top 15 pick for Kirby Dach?" Then, boop, here comes top 15 pick.
Our friends in Montreal do.
Yep.
And, props to Kyle Davidson for taking advantage of a situation where the Toronto Maple Leafs made that trade with the Hawks. They just needed to dump his salary. For a goaltender, he's making a lot of money. So he signed through 2024. Here's something to think about. Let's say, he's going to be a Hawk through 2023. I think we know that. In the last year of his contract, 23-24, let's say he's playing really well. And then for the last bit of his deal, you ship him to a contender and maybe you get something in return. And if not, he's just your innings eater for the next 2 years. That's fine. It's fine. Eat the minutes, play between the pipes. This is going to be your number 1 goaltender for the next 2 years. It's fine. I mean, who is going to be your next guy up? Anton Forsberg? I think that's literally all they have. They don't have Marc-Andre Fleury anymore, obviously. I think Colin Dahlia's deal expired, I think. So there you go. There's a move that just simply fills that bridge need, and it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, their goalies, they've got Soderblom, who is 22 years old.
Soderblom, not Soderberg.
Yeah, Soderberg is 22, and he is not ready. And you've got Comesso, who is 19.
Yeah, probably not ready.
He's about to turn 20 in a week or so. So neither one of those guys are ready.
So Kevin Lankinen's a free agent?
Yes, I believe so.
And I liked what I saw from Kevin Lankinen in year 1, but year 2 was just not as good. And, if you brought him back to be a backup, okay, it's just, I don't think he was going to be your primary piece for the future. Same with Colin Dahlia. Colin Dahlia was pretty good in Rockford, but the NHL level just didn't have that consistency. Yeah. So I think it could be fair to say that they might sign a veteran backup too at some point.
Yeah, it looks. I think Kevin Lankinen might be a free agent.
Yeah, I mean, it's something where you look at an NHL goaltender and you look at a guy like Mrazek. It really doesn't matter in the end what he does. If you're looking to develop a young goaltender, you kind of want to do that in the minors, in my opinion, and kind of work his way up. I mean, look at Crawford being a late bloomer and some of those other goaltenders that were late bloomers because, they worked on their craft in the AHL. Working on their craft in the NHL in front of a tanking team for a young goaltender, I don't think is going to do you much good.
Agreed. So it looks like Colin Dahlia is under contract. Let's see. I think Colin Dahlia is under contract.
Is he under contract with the Hawks or with the Ice Hawks? Because I know he signed an extension a few years back, but that was like in 2018, if I remember. That wasn't just like 1 or 2 years ago. That was when he was still getting decent ice time with the Blackhawks. He spent a lot of time in Rockford over the past few years. Whether he's under contract or not, I think at most he's going to be your depth backup guy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I still think they should sign a veteran backup regardless.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. No place seems to have a definitive list here.
I mean, regardless of who they have in Lankinen or Delia, regardless of that, that it wasn't going to be your long-term solution. And not saying that Peter Mrazek is, but at least you get a veteran in there that's played, has had an overall solid career, and can just slide right in there.
Right.
See, Kevin Lankinen, he still technically says he's with the Hawks.
It's on their roster, but I don't know if that's been updated because I think his contract expired at the end of the season.
I mean, that's kind of what I thought. That's why I was kind of confused here.
But anyway, the Blackhawks ended up with 3 first-round picks. And I don't know shit for shit about any of the draft picks. I've not seen any of them play. I'm reading from experts. And if you don't factor the trades in there, you just look at the draft picks they made, it seems the consensus is the Blackhawks did pretty well.
The pick I really like is the one they got for Kirby Dach, Frank Nazar. I think that was a slam dunk pick. I think that's what a lot of people wanted at number 7 when they took Korchinski, but they ended up getting Korchinski and Nazar. The overall consensus of this Blackhawks draft was that they got a lot of speed. And by golly, thank God we got a lot of speed, because we sure as hell didn't have that under Stan Bowman.
Yeah.
And Frank Nazar is one of those speedy people.
Kevin Korchinski is a defenseman from the Seattle Thunderbirds of the WHL. He went at number 7 as part of the DeBrincat trade. 18 years old, 6'2", left-hand defenseman, ranked second among WHL defensemen in assists. The central scouting for him, a high-end offensive defenseman who's very skilled. His dad played for the Saskatoon Blades. He says in his own words, I love to join the rush. I love to create offensively, and I do that using my feet, using my puck skills, and my passing ability. My dad, big Blackhawk fan, so I kind of hopped on the bandwagon as a kid. He was a big fan of Jonathan Toews. He loved how he played a complete 200-foot game. He's an unbelievable playmaker with the puck, different than a lot of defensemen we've drafted in the last few years. He's really puck friendly. He'll be a first unit power play guy. He projects to be a first pairing defenseman, can eat minutes.
Things you like to hear.
Yeah. Frank Nazar is a center in the U.S. national team under 18, part of the Kirby Dach trade, drafted at 13. He's 18 years old, 5'10", NHL Central Scouting, a consistent scoring threat who moves well laterally when carrying the puck and is hard to contain, makes very good decisions. In his own words, I like to say I play a little like Braden Point, and obviously I'm not the complete player as him, but that's why you've got to work. The speed and being able to score and get in those open areas. Easy player to like. You've heard me say speed, and he can absolutely fly. He makes quick plays under pressure. He's not afraid to drive the middle of the ice on the rush, bring people with him, and then bounce the puck out left or right. Character, again, through the roof. Checks a lot of boxes that way. Leadership material. And then the third first-round pick was Sam Rinzel, a defenseman out of Chaska High School in Minnesota. He's 18 years old, 6'4". Played 21 games in the USHL for the Waterloo Blackhawks. He said the Blackhawks were the team most interested in him. We watched him in every venue. There was so much to like because of his frame, and his skating ability is smooth and high end. He needs to put on some weight. He's more on the longer path. He'll play in Waterloo this year. Then he'll go to the University of Minnesota. Just so much to mold with him, but the pieces are there.
Just going back really quick, looking now, Kevin Lankinen right now is listed as a UFA under Spotrac. He signed a 2-year contract, $1.6 million back in 2020, 2021. So according to Spotrac, that 2-year deal expired after this season. So there you go on that. Anyway.
I'm just looking, the fourth pick, the Blackhawks missed Paul Ludwinski, center from the OHL Kingston Frontenacs. He was a teammate of Shane Wright, who I think we were all shocked that he didn't go first. We've been hearing for a long time that that's the number 1 overall pick, and he ended up going 4th. But they say he's a two-way center. He can play center or wing. And good on penalty, oozes character. They say he's a winner. So I think
that's good enough, right? He's a winner.
I mean, it seems like we're starting to see patterns here. Speed, character.
That character's good, my friends.
Does he got the TW?
He better. And all these picks are coming from different teams.
Yeah. So I'm looking though at the draft grades here, and it seems like most everybody gives the Blackhawks like a B+ on their draft picks. So yeah. I can't be mad at this.
No, I mean the actual trades that got draft picks, regardless of how good or bad they were, they use those picks to get some solid guys. Obviously, I don't think anyone's going to work out, and I don't know how many of them are going to be truly great levels here, but you see the fit for a lot of these guys. Speedy guys like Frank Nazar, defensemen like Korchinski, and you also have Sam Reinzel. Those at least with Korchinski, that's an addition to your defensive prospect pool, which is definitely significantly deeper than your forward prospect pool. But at least with some of these picks, like the Nazar, Ludwinski, Green, you picked up some forwards in this draft, and you might have a few solid ones in there too.
Yeah, here's what The Athletic has to say about the Blackhawks draft class. They give them a B+. This was highly interesting and impactful week for Chicago's organization. Let's start with the good. I think Kevin Korchinski and Frank Nazar project to become important players of the future for the team. Through several other picks, Chicago also added players with legit upside, and I could see several NHL players coming from this draft. I could quibble with the ranges Korchinski and Sam Rinzel went in, but that's roughly where other teams were going to pick them as well. The loss of Kirby Dach and Alex DeBrincat, while massive, is not incorporated in this grade. This is all about their draft and what it means. I like the players they brought in. This is a strong draft for Chicago, but given what they had to do to make it happen, I would argue you'd hope for a little more too.
I think that's all fair. That's very fair. to get here took a lot of sacrifice, and we wanted more. We think we should have gotten more, but at least everything wasn't all for naught. At least you were able to trade for draft picks. You went from 0 to 3 first round picks, and you're able to pick up some intriguing guys. It's not like you look at this whole list and you're like, oh, what a bunch of nobodies. I like Frank Nazar a lot. I think that's going to end up being a good pick for the Hawks. Hopefully Korchinski's the part of the core of the next great defenseman of this team, because we all know we haven't had a lot of good defensemen since Keith and Seabrook were in their prime. So, there's at least potential here to have future pieces with this draft. And I'm glad that they were at least, even if you didn't get enough for DeBrincat, they were at least able to gather enough to draft assets where they can, pick a variety of guys. And I'm glad that they were able to do that, because you need to restock your farm. Pure and simple, their farm is not overly strong. They need to restock it, and they need to develop better.
Here's what Yahoo has to say about it. The Chicago Blackhawks grade B+. If you were to judge the Blackhawks on their their 3 first-round picks, Kevin Korchinski, Frank Nazar, and Sam Renzel, it's a good day. In fact, those 3 players, based on the draft alone, could earn an A grade for the Blackhawks. General manager Kyle Davidson is either a genius or made rookie mistakes in the mixed messaging of the day. He traded 2 of his youngest stars, 21-year-old Doc and 24-year-old Alex DeBrincat, who both look like part of the future solution. In terms of talent, there's no telling if the Blackhawks won or lost. So, I mean, it's Kirby Doc, I think, just needed change of scenery.
Yep.
But Alex DeBrincat, it's tough to say you're building for the future when you trade a 24-year-old star. And it just makes me go, how long are you expecting this rebuild to go that you don't expect him to be there? And, the reports coming out that they didn't expect to be able to sign him is the only thing that can make it sort of make sense.
Right.
Is, what, hey, listen, we're probably going to pay him $9 million a year. And, are we going to be able to rebuild paying him $9 million a year and paying Seth Jones $9 million a year? We can't be paying like 20% of our salary cap to 2 guys when we're this bad.
Right.
And that's the only thing I can hang my hat on.
Yeah, right. I'm with you there.
So, now you look at the Blackhawks, top prospects at this point, not including the draft picks. Number 1, Lucas Reichel.
Still up there. Yep.
Number 2, Ian Mitchell. And I think this is a make or break year for him.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not giving up on him yet, but we got to start seeing the results. He's been one of the more notable Blackhawks prospects for a few years now.
Yeah, it's shit or get off the pot with him. I think if you send him back down to Rockford again, it's just wasting him.
Feels like a death sentence. Yeah.
Yes. He's easily your top pairing there. He needs to be able to transition. Your number 3 ranked player is Alex Vlasic, from the 2019 draft. He's had 3 good years at Boston University and signed with the Blackhawks late this year. He appeared in 15 games with the Blackhawks and averaged 14 minutes on ice per night. Number 4, Alec Regula. 5, Arvid Soderblom.
Who I called Soderberg, please excuse me.
6, Isaac Phillips, who is the other top pair for Rockford. So look for him to, make a big step. Jacob Galvis, defenseman. He's another defenseman in Rockford. Then you got Drew Comesso, who's a goalie, but he's young. He's if he's going to be the answer, it's going to be years into the future, maybe even 3 years into the future or more. He's going to go back to Boston University next year, so not even playing in Rockford.
Yeah, it's going to be some time.
Yeah, then Landon Slaggert, a wing. He is playing in college this year. And number 10, Colton Dock.
Can that Doc be have a bit more better fortune than the other Doc?
You hope.
Can we not F up his development and hopefully he doesn't break his wrist in a tournament? Not that was Kirby's fault. That was just a fluke accident, but you would hope.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just going to go hypothetical. Let's say that the top pairing from Rockford goes to Chicago this year, makes a big step forward. A realistic step forward, but a positive, big, realistic step forward. And Isaac Phillips and Ian Mitchell. If they take a step forward and Vlasic takes a step forward, does that give you more hope for a faster turnaround of this team?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the more prospects that play better, the better, because you're going to be relying a lot on your assets to be able to help turn this thing around. I mean, Ian Mitchell, that's a guy I really want to see succeed. And it's pretty important if he succeeds. I mean, that was, when they, especially since they traded Adam Boqvist last year, that was the guy who was supposed to be your next best defenseman. Obviously, they've added more defensemen into the prospect pool over the last little while, but, Ian Mitchell was one of the more talked about guys in terms of defensive prospects in the system. So if he turns out to be something solid, then you got to feel at least a little better about the future of this team in terms of defense.
Yeah. And obviously some luck plays into this as well, because we know the Blackhawks are going to be terrible next year.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be some luck in it, because even if they have the worst record, I think their odds of winning the number 1 pick is only like 18%.
Yeah, it's less than 20.
But if they get that number 1 pick, Connor Bedard.
If they win that pick and get Connor Bedard, Sean is going to cover himself in meatball sauce in a giant pot outside the United Center. And then he's going to centerate us all with the song on his little flute.
with my saucy ukulele. Connor, this meatball song is for you.
Oh, man, we can dream, right?
Oh, my Bedard, to me you are so beautiful.
See, right now, my ears are bleeding when I hear that. But if we actually got Connor Bedard, it would be music to my ears.
You would see me in, all decked out, just being like, woo, woo. Because that would be a case of a bit of luck. And we've had that historically in Chicago. We lucked out with the Bulls getting Michael Jordan. We lucked out with the Bulls getting Derrick Rose. We lucked out on the Blackhawks getting Patrick Kane.
We lucked out on getting the 3rd pick a few years ago, but instead of drafting the guy everybody wanted, we drafted Doc. No real disrespect to Doc. Again, I think he was done dirty by the organization with his development, but still. Either way, they got lucky to get that top pick in the top 5 at least. You know,
but if they end up with Connor Bedard, that probably makes this rebuild go faster.
Oh, it'd be huge. It would be absolutely huge. And we know that next year's draft, in addition to Connor Bedard, is going to be so much better than this year. So even if you don't get Connor Bedard, there's still some pretty solid, notable prospects, it sounds like, from this upcoming draft class. And again, that's why I really wish that a DeBrincat trade would have gotten us a first next year, because that would have been big. I mean, remember, we traded multiple first rounds for Seth Jones, and Seth Jones is a good player. Don't get me wrong. But, when you have a 24-year-old in his prime, that's a 40 goal scorer, you want to get as big of a package as you can.
Absolutely. Seeing, now, like when we were a couple weeks out and we're projecting what could happen and how long this could take. And it was, I think, a scary thing to think about. But now that we're here, we're like, listen, right now, we're probably as bad as we're going to be, right? I mean, I guess when you trade Kane and Taves' contract expires, but we're fairly right there at the bottom.
We're at rock bottom right now.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we can tumble down another step or two, but we're right there. We know where the bottom is. Like we know what that bottom looks like. And
it's the bottom of your meat sauce pot.
Yeah. With the burnt sauce where you had the heat up too high. But it seems less scary now. Like, okay, this is just going to suck. It's not going to be fun, but it's not scary anymore.
The draft picks at least give a little bit of hope.
Yeah. You look at the draft picks, you look at at what you do have in your pipeline, and you hope that a new coaching staff is going to be better at development. And you go, okay, if these guys take the step forward and the guys we drafted are what we thought they were, they
are who we thought they were.
Is maybe we're only 4 years away instead of 6, 7, 8.
Oh, that makes me feel so much better. Only 4.
I'm saying 4 from being a competitive team, not being a respectable team. Like I think, these next 2 years are going to really suck.
They are. And they're going to be crucial too, down in the farm, how they develop, how they draft, and what their overall focus is. But we know, regardless of that, the actual on-ice product at the United Center is going to be very rough.
Do we even know who the Ice Hogs coach is going to be next year?
I know there was a rumor saying they wanted to retain Derek King as much as best they can, but I don't know if that's going to happen.
I think the coaching staff in Rockford is going to be crucial.
Right.
I don't give a shit about winning any games in Rockford. It's fun, but I care about developing players.
Right.
That's all that matters to me. Is they are a feeder organization into the Blackhawks organization. Develop players, because the wins are important in Chicago, not Rockford. If they happen to win in Rockford while doing it, brownie points, but I don't care otherwise.
Brownie points. You're going to be in the stands in Rockford, just honking on brownies as they're scoring every goal. Just honk.
All right. What do you want to talk from here?
Well, we have some Bulls stuff that obviously happened since we did our last podcast, and I think there's a lot of mixed feelings. Not necessarily about Zach LaVine, but about what has and hasn't been done this offseason so far.
Were we expecting a major splash from the Bulls?
Look, I wasn't expecting a big trade. You heard the Kevin Durant stuff. That's not happening. You heard rumors about guys like who just got traded to Minnesota. Why am I blanking on his
Rudy
name?
Gobert.
Rudy Gobert, thank you. And did you see what a haul that Rudy Gobert got?
Yeah.
Massive. Can you imagine what Kevin Durant, one of the best players to ever step on a basketball court, is going to get? That's just not possible for the Bulls. They don't have the assets to do that.
Yeah, the package you would have to put together to get a Kevin Durant would leave you with Kevin Durant and the Lovables. And like you wouldn't win that way either.
No, and I mean, think about it. You would have to give up both players and draft picks.
Right.
And you've already given away draft picks over the past few years, for better or for worse. You know, you traded draft picks away to get Vooch. You know, that was obviously a big trade. And you're looking at the team and you're pretty much, with an addition of a few free agents in your first round draft pick, let's be real, this team is more or less running it back. It's the same core. You re-signed Zach LaVine to the max deal. And look, I know there were mixed feelings about Zach LaVine. He's got his strengths, he's got his weaknesses, but when healthy, he's an elite scorer. And if you're going to part ways with Zach LaVine, you got to replace him. If you can't replace him, then you might as well just tear everything down.
We're in an era where somebody like Zach LaVine gets a max deal, period. And that's what they had to do. It was somebody was going to give him the max amount of money they were allowed to give him. And the Bulls were in a position to give the most. So that's where we were. And love it or not, is that's the way the NBA works. So the plan is to trot out mostly the same team. And the hope is that you have Zach be 100%. And because he was not anywhere close to 100% at the end of last season.
No,
he was playing.
Those guys weren't.
He was playing on basically one leg.
Yeah.
And the hope is Ball is back healthy. And
we'll see.
We'll see.
I'm praying. He's very important to this team.
You're praying. I'm ladling meatball sauce. We are doing everything we can here.
Ladle. Sean is shaking the wooden spoon for the Kool-Aid right now. He's very nervous.
So the expectation is, well, what else were you going to do? You needed defense in the middle and rebounding and 3-point shooting. So you went out and you got Andre Drummond, and I don't hate that signing at all.
It's fine. I'm not expecting anything huge, but I think it does at least help with a few things. Drummond was once a guy who was pretty hyped up as a young player in Detroit. And, it was kind of just, But I think that Andre Drummond is a good enough player where he can at least aid this team in a not major role. He's there as a veteran to do what he does. It's a fine move.
You hope that he's the guy that played for Philadelphia last year.
Yeah.
Last year he played 18.4 minutes per game for the Sixers, and he averaged 6.1 points a game, 8.8 rebounds a game.
The rebounds is the biggest thing with him.
Yes.
If he could be an elite rebounder for this team, that would go a long way, because remember down the stretch last year, there were some games that they lost because they just couldn't get that crucial rebound. I think it was the game against Memphis at the United Center. They were down big and they could have come back and won, but they just couldn't secure that rebound. If you have Andre Drummond in there to help get you some of those rebounds that you need, it's going to be pretty important.
Yeah. So he's a rebounder, and so that was big. You needed 3-point shooting. You signed Goran Dragic. Both of those guys were low cost deals. And so you did some patchwork to your major holes. And I think the hope is being healthy and Pat Williams taking a big step forward.
That's crucial. If you're still putting your faith in Pat Williams, you want him to be healthy and you need him to take that next step.
And I think it was Joe Cowley that was saying that his feeling is that Dalen Terry, the draft pick, is really going to push Patrick Williams because he pushed him hard in the summer league, the practices, and they were engaging in some competitive banter during the sessions. So does this help unlock that competitive fire in Pat Williams that he needs to take that next step? Because it's not the talent, it is the heart that we need to come out. And if Pat Williams can be the guy that we think he could be when we drafted him, and everybody stays healthy, this is a much more competitive team than we saw at the end of last year.
My concern here is this. I love DeMar DeRozan. I think he's a very good player. But what's one of the main reasons why the Bulls were so good in the first half?
DeMar DeRozan was amazing.
He was. And he's still a very good ball player. But can we realistically expect him to be that same MVP level type player next year?
Let me rebut that.
Oh boy.
What if he doesn't have to be, and Batman and Robin switch roles? Zach is the one scoring all of those points. DeMar is the one that is the secondary scorer. And they sort of flip those roles. That seems much more realistic to me in what next season could look like.
Sure. And I mean, that's something that I think would be very beneficial to the team, where you're not just relying on DeMar DeRozan. We're not saying we don't want DeMar DeRozan to not play at an MVP level. We're saying we don't want to have to rely on DeMar DeRozan being the source of their victories, basically, as much as they needed last year. I mean, it's one of those things where you look at the situation and you say a lot of other things have to go right on top of that. You need other guys like Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso to be healthy to not have to rely on that so much. Because if it happens again, you can't rely on that happening like it did last year. It just doesn't seem sustainable. It wasn't sustainable.
Last year was just a perfect series of bad things to happen with mostly with injuries, that it just everything fizzled out at the end.
And if Craig Krenzel's in their nightmares, forget it.
But it's Craig Krenzel. You had injuries until finally everyone went, oh my goodness, we now see the Achilles heel of this team, and they were easy to beat.
Right.
And, but when you have Caruso and Ball healthy, fingers crossed, ladle, it adds a much more improved interior defense because those passing lanes are clogged. You add in Andre Drummond and the rebounding goes up. You added a 3-point shooter. And so the hope is here that what are the odds we go through these catastrophic injuries? Number one. Number two is we're hoping to unlock the potential of Pat Williams, and we've added some small pieces to hopefully patch over our absolutely biggest needs. So if you wind up being that same team that played at the same level as the first half of last season, and you can project that across the whole season, do I see them as realistic competitors to win an NBA title? No. Do I see them as a team that is competitive in the early rounds of the playoffs? Potentially, yes. And
I just wish they could have gotten more perimeter shooting. That's what I really wish that we could have addressed. That I just don't think we have.
I would agree with that.
Here's the other thing too. Look at their division. You have the Bucks, who are going to be contending for a championship.
Mm-hmm.
You have the Cavaliers that are going to be very good, and they are a tough matchup for the Bulls with their size. And then I'm telling you, man, they might not be there yet, but Detroit is not a joke anymore.
No,
look at that core they're building with.
I still think that they are at least a season away, but they're going to be competitive.
They're not going to be pushovers anymore. Let's just say that. I mean, it's a pretty good division with a pretty good future, we got to say.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the conference in general. I mean, the
Philly, Boston,
the Miami, Milwaukee, Philadelphia. I don't know. Who knows what the Nets are going to look like?
Yeah, we'll see. But either way, you have a number of teams that are going to be in that race. I mean, Boston, Milwaukee, Miami, Philadelphia, those four teams right there, you have to think those are going to be like the four favored in that conference. I mean, right now, as I see it, the Bulls are a 6-5 seed. They're obviously not better than Milwaukee. They're not better than Philadelphia. They're not better than Miami. Will Boston come down to earth a little bit next year? Maybe, but they're still going to be pretty good, I think. It's not like they lost a lot and they didn't add anything, but you know, they went on a better run than we expected. So can we expect the same thing next year? Maybe, maybe not. But regardless, that's going to be a team that you're going to be chasing in the conference, even if they're not in your division.
Yeah. Is Atlanta going to take that step forward that we thought they were going to take this year?
Yeah, it's possible.
So it's a tough conference. Want to talk a little baseball?
Yeah, baseball. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, the moans of the crowd.
The groans of the crowd.
The groans, the weirdly intriguing competitive play of the Cubs as of recent.
So since they just got manhandled by the back-to-back series with the Yankees and the Padres, the Cubs have won 5 of 6 series. And they're not doing it pretty. There's nothing flashy about it. But they're winning games. They took 2 of 3 of Boston. There was that awful anomaly with the Pirates, but 2 of 3 from the Cardinals, 2 of 3 from the Reds, 2 of 3 from the Red Sox, 2 of 3 from the Brewers. And they're not going to win the series against the Dodgers, but it has not been a blowout against a juggernaut Dodgers team.
It just sucks that you let a game that you were leading pretty much the whole way slip away on Friday. But, you know, the Cubs of a month plus ago probably would have lost those 2 games by at least 5. You know, they fought back in game 1. No hard feelings there. Last night, they blew a save. And look, blowing a game is one thing. Like, you know, you can look at the positives from Friday night's game. Keegan Thompson shoved. Great to see. Nico Horner homered. Great to see.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that was bothersome about Friday night's loss is David Robertson blowing his second save over a week, and he is going to be outside of potentially Wilson Contreras, your most intriguing trade chip, unless you trade Ian Happ too. But if you're not trading Ian Happ, it's Contreras and David Robertson right now is your intriguing trade chips. And you don't want to see him falter too much before the deadline. That's really what bothered me about that loss.
Yeah. I mean, I think the likelihood of Kyle Hendricks getting traded are slim and none at this point.
Well, with the injury, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I'm not saying it's good that he's injured, but I know you and I have kind of disagreed with this, but I've made my opinion clear that I don't think he's the same guy anymore. The idea of trading away a cost controllable guy, even if he's not great anymore, for potentially just scraps. I don't know. I mean, look how frequently these pitchers are getting injured. Isn't it nice to have somebody under team control if he's not very good? And look, let's say on the last year of his contract, the Cubs are contenders again. Then he's probably your fifth starter if he's still there. You're not going to rely on him being your number one guy. It's just you need somebody there.
The problem with him is he's not a guy that you can go, oh, hey, he's not pitching well. We're going to move him out of the starting rotation. He'll be our long reliever or, a swing guy. He can't go in the bullpen. He's a starting pitcher, period.
Yeah. No, you're right.
So that's it. Like at some point you just keep moving him down to the bottom of the rotation. And then you go, all right, what are we going to do now? It becomes if you're lucky, it becomes a Jason Hayward type situation where he's just clogging up. He's taking at bats away from other people or taking, innings away from other people.
Well, luckily, unlike Jason Hayward, he's not making a lot of money.
True. And, the hope is we get enough guys that come up going, oh, hey, yeah, these are the guys we want to eat innings and be out there. That would mean good things with the younger players.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where you can look at it and say the cost of him is very, very friendly for a club. And, it's 2 more years with, I think, an option after that. So it's not like you're stuck with him for like 5+ more years. So, looking ahead at this deadline, here's the thing that bothers me about the prospect of trading both Happ and Contreras, depending on who you get back. But doesn't that tell your fans that you're not ready to win until 2024, 2025? If you were really feeling like you were closer than people think, even with the projection of some of these prospects not being for a few years where the money's going to be spent soon, if you're getting rid of the few guys you could build around on a major league team and you're going to trade them away, aren't you just prolonging this rebuild? Aren't you basically saying it's not going to be until 2024, 2025? And look, maybe if they did take that path, it ends up being the right path in the long run, but it doesn't necessarily feel good, right?
I started thinking about it this way, and I'm glad that you had a sort of frame shift on this as well. I read a quote from Carlos Correa is, if we trade away Contreras and Happ, what does that tell potential free agents?
Right.
They don't want to come here for a rebuild. Carlos Correa said it out loud.
Yep.
I don't want to go to a team and rebuild. So he's probably going to opt out after this year. But if that's the kind of guy that you're looking to attract, you need to have other players. So if you come to free agency and say, hey, look at how competitive we were at the end, the second half of the season, look how competitive we were. And we extended Wilson Contreras and we kept Ian Happ and we've got these guys coming from the pipeline, that sends a much different message than trading Contreras and trading Happ.
I 100% agree with you. I 100% agree with you. My question is, do the higher ups care? Do they want to stick with this so-called plan? Do they care? I don't know.
Ian Happ doesn't make sense to me to trade.
I agree. He is a very valuable guy to have on your team. And I don't think the return value of what someone's going to trade for you, unless someone blows you out of the water, is going to make, that big of an impact. The only the dream scenario, if you're going to trade one of those guys, is to get prospects that are near major league ready. No more 18, 19-year-olds.
Right.
And I don't know what you're going to get for a guy like Happ. I think his value is on the field on this team. He's having a great season, great season. But is a team like the Yankees or the Twins or the Rays, are they going to pay up big for that? I'm not so sure.
I don't see the value in trading Ian Happ unless, like you said, that there's somebody just blows you away. And I don't see that because honestly, when was the last time you saw a major league trade where somebody blew you away with the offer? Period.
The last few years, the market's changed. We're not in the market that Rick Hahn traded Chris Sale and Jose Quintana for.
Right.
We're not in the market that Theo Epstein traded Gleyber Torres for a rental.
Right.
That's just not what it is right now.
And so I do not see a realistic scenario where somebody blows me away for an Ian Happ trade. I don't trade Ian Happ.
I agree.
On the flip side, Wilson Contreras, hear me out, is I don't trade him unless you don't have what you feel is a good path towards extending him. If you're not going to extend him, you've got to trade him.
Right. And I don't get why they just refuse to even entertain the idea.
Now, here is, we talked about this with Chris Bryant, but what if you tell Wilson Contreras, listen, we want to re-sign you. We also want to get the trade value for you. Why don't we trade you and then re-sign you as a free agent?
That is my dream scenario. Just rent him and bring him back. But I just don't expect that.
No, that's not a likely scenario.
We've seen it with Aroldis Chapman. How many other people have we seen that with?
It's not very common. So I think you have got a couple of weeks here to sit down with the representatives for Wilson Contreras and figure out what an extension looks like for him. If it's just like, you know what, this just doesn't make sense financially. Like he wants $35 million a year and an 8-year contract or something stupid. You're like, okay, this is not realistic. We don't have the time to negotiate here on extension.
What do you mean I have to pay you money? Can't I just buy you in pumpkins from Gallagher Wing?
Can I give you a free Dunkin' Donuts?
I already bought the gift card. It says to Wilson from Tom.
Wilson, have you been to the new Taco Bell?
I think it's called the Taco Bell Cantina. It's cleaner.
Nobody's gotten AIDS from the bathroom.
Nobody steps in vomit when you walk in or has to deal with 2 drunk frat boys fighting with each other. It's clean, it's family friendly, and it's got your own soda dispenser.
The lobby doesn't smell like Tinkle.
He gives Wilson Contreras just a giant, big gulp cup. Here, go to the cantina, tell him I sent you, and fill up on soda.
He's like, have you been to our new McDonald's as well? Did you know they have lemonade Sprite slushies?
Oh,
it's only $1.69.
They make the McGangbang for you.
if you feel you cannot extend him, then you have to trade him. And because you can't lose him for nothing.
No, and I think they understand that. If for whatever reason, if it's good or it's bad, if they're not going to come to an agreement for an extension, they're not just going to let him walk.
And so that is where I'm at with Wilson Contreras but the way that I'm seeing them be competitive with kind of a garbage roster, be competitive is making me go, hey, maybe we are closer to being a competitive team than I thought we were. And if we are trying to pretty ourselves up to be able to attract a Carlos Correa or a Xander Bogaerts
or a Trey Turner.
Yeah.
I mean, look, there are three, four, I'd say, guys on the current roster that project to be starters or pieces of the future that give me some hope. One is Nico Horner. He looks great.
So to that point, this is an addendum to your point. If they sign one of these superstar shortstops, you move Nico to second and you launch Nick Madrigal into space, right?
Nico Horner should be a much higher priority right now than Nick Madrigal. And we'll see what happens when Nick Madrigal comes back. But if he just shows you nothing, you got to just take the L on that trade. You just have to. Even if you keep him around and he just ends up being some bench, doohickey or whatever, you bring in a superstar, you move Nico to where he needs to be, you prioritize the superstar in Nico. Because Nico has shown you what a good ball player he can be offensively and defensively. You bring in an established guy, you know who you're going to get. You haven't seen anything yet, at least on the Cubs side, from Nick Madrigal as of yet.
Is Nick Madrigal versatile enough to be a utility man?
I mean, I don't think so as of right now. But if you were hell-bent on trying to make him one, then maybe you can try. It's just, where would you put him, though?
I mean...
He's a slapdick hitter.
I'm saying is if you bring in, let's just hypothetically, is Carlos Correa opts out, you sign Carlos Correa. Carlos Correa is your shortstop. Nico Horner then becomes your second baseman.
Or, hold on, Nico Horner's played multiple positions. Maybe he's your versatile guy. He's played in the outfield. He's played second base. Maybe he's your versatile guy.
Okay, but so you're saying that Nico Horner just plays all over the place? And he fills in at short when Correa needs a day off. Maybe DHs sometimes, plays second base, plays corner outfield, and that's how he gets.
Or I have another idea. Move one of the guys you signed to third.
Does Nico Horner have the arm to play third?
No, not Nico Horner. The guy you signed.
Okay, but that's when you're bringing in a star shortstop. How do you sell them on going to third?
Green. Cha-ching.
I mean, possibly.
Those Bills on the Benjamins talk. Come play for the Chicago Cubs. We'll give you plenty of other Bills.
I mean, we need to upgrade third base.
Yes, we do.
Patrick Wisdom has been a nice story. And you look at his stats, they're not terrible.
No, for what he is, he hits home runs, and his OBP for all the strikeouts is like around average.
Yeah, he's got a decent OPS. So for where they are in the rebuild, Patrick Wisdom is a perfectly fine third baseman.
Agreed.
But do you need to upgrade from him to go to the next level? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you're obviously going to want to get premier players at certain positions. And, whether or not Patrick Wisdom remains as a bench guy, which might not be the worst thing in the world, is fine. But yeah, you definitely want to fill your roster with as many, star position players as you possibly can.
I mean, having a Patrick Wisdom come off the bench is not the worst thing in the world.
Not at all.
He has elite power. Like, when he hits home runs, they're home runs.
I was there watching his grand slam against the Reds, and I literally lost track of it. I saw the ball finally land literally down Kenmore. Absolute just monster shot.
I went to a Cubs-Reds game that series.
It was the one they lost, wasn't it?
It was. It sucked so bad. And the Cubs came back, and I was like, woohoo, they're coming back. Oh, wait, no, they stopped coming back. But, we talked prior to the start of the season about Frank Schwindel and Patrick Wisdom. And I said, I want to see extended time for both to really evaluate what we have. And I think Frank Schwindel, his time is done. We've evaluated him. He is not a cog on this team going forward.
Well, I think, the first base position is going to be one of big mystery. I mean, I've actually been kind of one to advocate for the idea of is if you extend Wilson Contreras, teach him first base for the long run. Because I don't know if those legs are going to hold up behind catcher. And he's clearly thriving that he's able to play DH as well. So why not try to let him learn first base? And look, I still think there's something in Alfonso Rivas. I mean, he had a bit of a slump, then he went down, then he came back. Ever since he came back, he's actually played pretty well.
Yeah.
So, that's going to be interesting to see how they go about that.
But I've seen enough of Frank Schwindel that I don't think he's long-term material.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that you're going to see long-term from him either. I respect the hell out of his effort and his determination. He seems like a great guy, but, obviously long-term, he's already 30 years old. You're thinking in other terms when it comes to 3-4 plus years down the road from now. So those are all things to think about as you enter your next phase, is how you're going to go about that.
But seeing Patrick Wisdom with that extended time makes me say, I'm going to try to word this the way I mean it. He makes the position of third base one that you need to upgrade on before you become competitive you're competing for a World Series. But I think it lowers it on the priority list of where you need to upgrade.
Well, at least it gives you something that isn't completely worthless.
Yeah.
Remember when the Cubs were rebuilding under Theo, the third baseman they went through in those years.
Right.
It was pretty grim.
But Patrick Wisdom is a perfectly fine defender. And the stat lines just aren't he strikes out too much and he's not a good average guy, but he does draw walks and he's got crazy power.
Yeah. Even with the strikeouts, we've seen some pretty good at bats from him.
Yeah. He's not Javi Baez striking out on 3 pitches that are 12 foot high.
Right.
So I feel confident that you're like, okay, we know we need to upgrade from him, but we've got way bigger fish to fry. He's fine for where we're at.
Right.
And I think that was important to figure out, because if he was a fluke, I wanted to find that out, because then you're like, shit, you know what? He was a flash in the pan. He's not going to pan out. Let's move on. Third base is a big priority now, but I think he has shown that this is who he is. This is what you're going to get. And I think that's fine. And so I'm okay making third base less of a priority. Pitching, much higher priority. Figuring out first base.
Catcher. I mean, if you're gonna be Trent Contreras, you need more catcher depth in your organization.
Yes. Like, if Jan Gomes is the bridge, fine. But who the hell is he the bridge to?
Right. And who's going to play next to him? I'll give this. PJ Higgins has impressed me this year. I'll give him that.
Yeah. I've not been upset about that.
He's been hitting too.
Yeah. So I think Patrick Wisdom, you would have to call him a moderate success this year.
Yeah, he exceeded my expectations.
You need Suzuki to get back to being Suzuki that started the season.
To be fair, outside of yesterday's game, he has looked pretty good.
Yeah, since he's come back, he's looked a lot better than prior to getting injured. It's like he's had multiple different seasons within this one season.
Right. He's first year in the league. It's understandable.
Yeah, he's going to figure it out. I'm not overly concerned. But you know what I thought of earlier today, and you probably don't like. You'll probably like, yeah. So, is this seems like so far, like so long ago, but Jesse Chavez was on this team this year.
Yeah, I saw him suck it up in opening week.
I don't know how he popped in my brain, but I was like, it seemed like a lot longer ago. But yeah, he was on the roster for that 10 minutes.
Yes, he was.
The last thing I wanted to talk about with the Cubs is we have one all-star at this point.
Wilson Contreras.
The question is, does Ian Happ make the all-star team?
I think he deserves to. The way he's played, I think he deserves it.
I would say so, but I think he's going to get snubbed.
I agree.
But he absolutely deserves it. And his stats have been great this year.
They have. He continues to hit. It's impressive.
Yeah. I'm trying to look Fangraphs. I'm trying to look at Patrick Wisdom here. Patrick Wisdom. Why when I type in Patrick WIS, Patrick Corbin pops up first?
Interesting.
The alphabetizing of Fangraphs is broken. So right now, Patrick Wisdom is a 1.1 F4.
Not bad. It's not bad.
No, not bad at all.
He's a solid defender too. Give him that.
Yeah, I mean, comparing him to last year, 231 batting average. This year 230. Last year 305 OBP. This year 319. Slugging was a little down this year, 518 to 463. The walk rate is up. The strikeouts are down. So last year was 8.5% walk. This year, 10.4. And then last year was 40.8% strikeout. This year's 33.6, which is way too many, but that's a significant drop in strikeouts
Yeah.
and a modest bump in walk rate. I can't be mad at what we're getting out of Patrick Wisdom.
Not at all.
So not even a little bit mad. But should we talk a little White Sox?
Yeah, why don't we?
They have this string of, I think, 4 games against Detroit, 4 against Cleveland, 4 against Minnesota. So 12 straight games against your division at the halfway point. That should be huge. The White Sox should have been salivating at that, going, all right, this is where we turn the tide and jump right back into this race. Not that they're out of the race, but the longer you leave, 5-6 game deficit with a team you have to leapfrog to get to that point, or 2 teams you have to leapfrog, that it gets more and more daunting every day.
Yeah, look, I mean, the Sox fans have to be incredibly relieved that they won so big today on Saturday, because they had lost their first 2 games against Detroit at home after losing 2 of 3 in Minnesota. And they got to feel good that they won that last game too against Minnesota. They came back multiple times. You had Luis Robert, you had Andrew Vaughn hit huge home runs, and they eventually won it on a Garcia single. The White Sox could be 10 plus games back if the Twins weren't trash. So they need to take advantage of this. And I think the worst thing about what's going on with the White Sox so far, the dumb mistakes that seemingly happen every single day. The 8-5 triple play was one of the worst plays you'll ever see in baseball. Tim Anderson not tagging the runner. It's just the Jose Abreu getting caught up between first and second and just not even moving. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that has lost them games. Those things don't happen. They might win some of those games, and they might be even closer to the AL Central lead. They're both lucky and not lucky that they are where they are. They could easily be 10 plus back. They could also be even closer.
Yeah, between the dumb mistakes, the injuries, the errors,
and the inconsistent hitting,
and the poor lineup constructions, like those combination is just brutal. It's almost you look and you're like, how are they as good as they are, given those things. But here's the thing. We're more than halfway through the season for the White Sox. So the record is 40-43. So they're 86 games in, more than halfway. The Twins are in first place, and they're on pace to have roughly 87 or 88 wins. Is that a fair total to say the White Sox need to win at least 88 games?
I think they would need to win at least 85. I think at least 85. I still don't think the Twins are shit, but I think the way they're going, I think 85, 86 is reasonable to win, to have a shot.
Okay, so you're saying let's go 86.
Let's go 86. All right.
All right. So that would make the record that they needed to have is 86 and 76. Right?
Yeah.
All right. Their record right now is 40-43. That would mean that they would need to go 46-33 the remainder of the season to get there.
Well, their schedule is lighter in the second half than it was in the first half.
But they
and
have
you
to,
could get healthier guys back.
but they have to win those games.
They do. They do. There is no question about it. Friday night's game was a really bad loss.
I think it wouldn't have been unfair to say that in this 4-game stretch against Detroit that they needed to win at least 3 games.
Right. And now at most, you can split. You wanted 3.
And so, so the White Sox, in order to get to that 86 win season, they need to be winning better than a 582 clip the rest of the season.
I still think it's possible, but every day they lose a bad game or do something dumb, it hurts. It hurts to see to their chances.
Their margin of error is real slim right now.
I mean, how many times have we seen them win a really good game and you think this is it? This is the turning point. Whether it was Josh Harrison's walk-off against the Blue Jays, whether it was the sweep in San Francisco, whether it was the Tim Anderson home run that shushed the crowd at Yankee Stadium. All of that stuff. We saw multiple times. This is the turning point. This is the turning point. And they end up losing games afterwards. When is that turning point going to be? The Twins are begging for you to creep up on them. The Guardians aren't that good. You got to take advantage of that. You can't keep losing these games. I mean, look at the first game against the Tigers. They had the winning run in scoring position with less than 2 outs, and they couldn't get him home. And they almost rallied in the next game, and they couldn't get that in either. You got to win these games, man. And maybe you could have won 2 or 3 if you didn't have that base running gaffe with the triple play against the Twins.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking, and 538 still says the White Sox have a 50% chance of making the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, again, that division is keeping them in it right now. The wild card is getting harder because more teams are passing them up in the wild card. I think if they have to make the postseason, it's going to have to be via the division, especially with all the teams in the AL East, because the Yankees are going to win that. You're going to have Boston, you're going to have Toronto, and you're going to have Tampa Bay competing for those spots alone.
Yeah, it's tough. Looking at so ahead of you in the wild card. Let's see, 482 would be the Mariners, the Guardians, the Orioles, the Blue Jays, the Rays, the Red Sox. The White Sox would be last place in the AL East.
Yeah, Baltimore is playing a lot better too. The White Sox, if they were in the AL East, would be over 20 games behind the Yankees. And that's really a testament to just how crazy the Yankees have been.
That is insane. So according to 538, the Yankees roughly have a 25% chance of winning the World Series.
Yeah, it's a good team. I mean, if you saw it into the future and it was Dodgers, Yankees, a World Series, you think a lot of people would be surprised? Don't think so.
Yeah, so Fangraphs has the White Sox as a 47.5% chance of making the playoffs.
I've seen so many different chances for the Sox. I've seen some lower, some about that time. The outlets are different, but either way,
the Cubs, they have at a 0.1% chance of making the playoffs.
So you're saying there's still a chance?
I am saying that there's still a chance.
Like I said, I'm not ruling out the Sox winning the division until it's like September and they're a decent amount of games back. Say it once, I'll say it again. I don't think the Twins are good. They got a few good players, but they're just not good.
I don't think they're good, but they also have a fairly sizable lead on the White Sox.
Could be a lot bigger. I'm just saying.
It could
the White
be.
Sox are hanging in there because of that.
I mean, if there was ever a time for the White Sox to go on a, let's say, a 7-game win streak, it's right now.
Yeah, when you're playing these teams, yes.
I mean, you beat if you go on a 7-game streak, that's 1 on the Tigers, 4 on Cleveland, and that means you split with Minnesota. So at that point, you leapfrog Cleveland, and then you are just chasing Minnesota at that point.
Right.
Which is not a bad place to be. It's the combination of being like 5 or 6 games out and having to leapfrog Cleveland and Minnesota.
Cleveland stinks too. Okay, I take that back. They don't stink, but they're a 500 team. I just don't think they're going anywhere this year.
They're not a 500 team. They're a sub 500 team, but they're not going anywhere. But they are ahead of you in the standings.
Yes, they are.
Just having to go over 2 teams is a lot more difficult. And if the White Sox can go on a nice little win streak here, then they get ahead of the Guardians, and then it's just chasing the Twins, which makes life a lot easier. That puts all the pressure on the Twins. Twins know that Guardians aren't catching them. But if they've got just the White Sox hot on their ass, that makes it a lot harder to win because you're always looking over your shoulder. But it's the White Sox have to come up with these plays.
They do, and we've just seen a lot of frustrating and bad, and it needs to change. If you want to win a World Series, you can't keep playing stupid ball like that.
Yeah, and it's a terrible time for Michael Kopech to suddenly forget how to pitch.
Yeah, I think that injury kind of did some damage to him.
I think trying to pitch through pain when
not good.
He should have taken like 2 weeks off, gone on the the 10-day or 15-day disabled list, gotten everything right, and then come back. I think that would have been the more prudent play there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, I think that pitching through the pain is, it felt like he was just trying to keep the team afloat and himself afloat, but you've seen some negative effects of it recently. And, he can turn it around again, but you don't like seeing it because it has cost you a few games as of recent.
You've got Yasmani Grandal making rehab starts. If Yasmani Grandal can come back and hit 75% of where he should be, that is a huge lift at the catcher position for the White Sox because they're getting no production from the catching spot.
Yeah, they need Yasmani Grandal to come back and be the guy they signed, the guy they got last year.
So
And you need Eloy to hit home runs. You need Luis Robert to keep flexing the power. His power has returned a bit recently. That's good. Abreu's been producing. You need it to all come together. I mean, it's really just at the end of the day, you need it to come together, and you need the power to be there more consistently. It's like they have one game every few days. So like, oh, look, there's the power we expected. And then it's gone out for another few days.
That's the thing. They just have no power. I think the Yankees have over double the number of home runs than the White Sox.
Yeah. I mean, it's both a testament to the White Sox disappointing power production so far and just how insane the Yankees are.
Yeah. The White Sox they need more power. And I mean, today they scored 8 runs. And do you know how many home runs?
3?
1.
1
home run. Like, listen, I like being able to score runs without the home run, but you got to be able to hit home runs.
Right.
And that home run was Gavin Sheets.
Yeah.
I mean, we are more than halfway through this season. And White Sox batting leaders. All right. We are more than halfway through the season, and the home run numbers is Jose Abreu has 10. Luis Robert has 10. Vaughn has 8. Berger has 8. Anderson has 5. So you only have 4 players with over 5 home runs and only 2 players in double digits. You're on pace for potentially only having 1 player with 20 home runs on your team.
Yeah, you need more.
You need more home run production. You need to be able to hit home runs.
Yep. If they could do that more, then they're going to win more games.
Absolutely. You compare that with, I mean, the Cubs are not a good team. And you have Patrick Wisdom has 17 home runs. Wilson Contreras 13. Christopher Morel 9. Like, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys over 5 home runs. Like, the Cubs are a bad team, and they have more pop in their lineup, and they shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, the Cubs can get on base and hit for power. Their big problem is situational hitting.
Right. So I'd like to wrap this up with a little bit of Bears. There's not much going on in Bears land, but we did have, over the holiday weekend, the firing of Soup.
Not Soup.
Which is funny because Soup, during this whole search committee thing, Soup Campbell was one of the, 1, 2, 3, the 5, I think it was a 5
advisors or councilmen, whatever you want to call
one
them.
of the 5 search committee members.
Yeah, there you go.
It was like Soup, Tanisha, Bill Polian, Ding Dong George, and Sweaty Teddy. And Bill Polian is now gone because he was a
temporary.
He was an advisor. He was a consultant.
Thanks for coming. Here's your Amazon and Starbucks gift card. Have a nice day.
And now, and during this process, they talked about how important Soup was to this organization. And while he was on vacation, during a holiday weekend, the Bears fired Soup.
Yeah, that's some weird timing. And I don't want to fully judge because we don't know exactly what's gone on, but it definitely raises a few eyebrows.
Yeah, it does. I don't know. So Adam Hogue is trying to say that it was nothing specific. It was part of the overhaul of the organization. I would be fine believing that had it not been the timing of it.
Right. It's the timing that was weird.
I don't care anything about, like, I literally didn't know who Soup Campbell was as far as the Bears organization until the search committee.
I just knew it was what you saw on the shelves at Jewel Osco.
But just the fact that they talked about how important he was, and that Ryan Poles had to go to George and say, hey, I'm going to fire Soup, got the permission, and fired Soup while he was on vacation or over the holiday.
Very, very weird.
You can't tell me that I mean, if you're going to let somebody go as part of hey, we're overhauling this, you wait till he's in the office and you're like, hey, let me bring you in face to face, say, hey, appreciate what you did. We're planning to go a different direction. That's a hey, it's not a you, it's a hey, we're overhauling this. Firing somebody while they're on vacation over a holiday weekend screams to me there's an incident. Something happened.
I mean, there's got to be some reason for firing, right? They don't just do it.
Right. And I don't know if it has to do with multiple players being arrested in the offseason, because Soup is supposed to be that liaison, or if there was an incident with, involving Soup, either with another member of the Bears organization or allegations of something.
I don't like your chicken noodle.
Your cream of mushroom needs to have water added to it, which makes it gross. But if you don't add water, it's too salty. So maybe we find out, maybe we don't. But the only other real topic I had was the Bears had another player arrested.
Their third this offseason.
We differ on the significance of one of them. I don't think doing donuts in your car should be a big deal. And clearly, after being interviewed with it, Byron Pringle does not think it's a big deal.
No, he does not.
And he's annoyed that people are asking about it still, which, listen, I don't think it's a big deal, but I can see why other people may think it's, maybe you shouldn't be doing donuts in your kid in a car. But I think we can all agree that of the three arrests, his is by far the least significant.
Yeah, when you have others with drug possession and weapon possession, that's kind of a problem.
Yeah, at least it hasn't been, other than Byron Pringle, it has not been players that are important to this organization. So this third one is wide receiver David Moore, who, honest to God, I had forgotten the Bears brought him.
Same, honestly, same.
And this one, while it is serious, the circumstances are kind of funny. He was
at Taco Bell, wasn't he?
He was at Taco Bell and he fell asleep in the drive-thru.
Imagine being Ryan Poles and getting that call.
And so when the police showed up, because were called because he was sleeping in the Taco Bell drive-thru. They found him at the wheel with a smell of marijuana, which, all right. Oh, it was edibles. He had
edibles. Yeah.
Yeah. Which who cares? It's legal in like 90% of this country. But then he had the guns in the car.
Yeah.
Which that is the one that becomes problematic. Like sleeping while you're operating a vehicle, no bueno. The edibles, meh, not my thing, but it is legal in Illinois. I don't know where he was, Texas. Maybe it's not legal in Texas, but it is not a heinous crime. But the guns, then you combine it all together, being intoxicated while driving with guns, suddenly you go, what the fuck?
Was there like 3 pistols or something?
Yes.
Dumb.
Yeah. And the Matt Adams one, he was in a car that was reported stolen, but it ended up being his car. And so who is reporting this car being stolen? And why do you have guns in the car? Just so many questions.
Yeah, it was 2 instances with weapons.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yes. But I guess the last thing I want to say is, have you seen any of the videos of Justin Fields with his new haircut working out with Chad Ochocinco?
I have.
That release looks nice.
Yeah, so far, I like the video I'm seeing. I mean, it doesn't really, it only tells a small part of the story, but they were working on his release this offseason. If it's better this year than last year, that's got to be a positive sign, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's the release was weird. It was always had that weird like hitch in it, but it looks like they've corrected that. And I don't know how that will. I mean, obviously we'll see improve the release time and give defenders less of a time to try to jump routes, but we'll see what the results look like on the field. But I'm happy with the work he's putting in. He is not just resting. He has been putting in work all off season. And I'm not talking about hitting the treadmill on his vacation. That's
you better
dumb.
do those pull-ups. You better do those push-ups. You better get on that treadmill. I better see you running around Hallis Hall 10 times, which, by the way, my dad works right next to Hallis Hall near Abbott Park. He works for Abbott. It's right there. And he sees the players training. He sees the guys driving in their nice cars.
Cool. I've been to Abbott numerous times. I used to work as a consultant, and I had clients at Abbott, the old Abbott building.
Yeah, that's Abbott Park is a massive campus. His office is a little off to the side of it, but he used to work in the center there. My dad's worked at Abbott for like 20 plus years. So
yeah, so most of my clients were at AbbVie, the pharmaceutical side, but there are still some lingering folks at the old Abbott building.
Yeah.
And every so often, if I had nothing to do, I would drive by Hallis Hall just to see what was going on.
See Ding Dong George and his purple crayons.
What was funny is, do you remember the Jeremiah Ratliff incident where the police had to be called on him?
I do.
I was like a mile away from all of that, and I didn't realize it was going on until afterwards. I was like, damn it, I would have driven that 1 mile and just sat there to see what I could see.
Oh boy, look at that. As Sean Hopman shows up with his meatball sauce getting poured all over himself.
I hitched my my pants up to my armpits. All right, now let's figure out the situation here. I need to know the details. Pulling him up Urkel style.
Urkel style. I love it.
Uh,
He has a sweet heavenly voice like Urkel. And he shows up every Friday night like Urkel.
You can appreciate this. Is I saw online. So you know the scene where Mrs. Krabappel and Principal Skinner are making out in the closet, and then Ralph goes, "I saw Principal Skinner and Mrs. Krabappel in the closet. They were making babies, and one of the babies looked at me."
Yes.
Baby looked at you.
Baby looked at you.
So somebody paused the scene when they get caught in the closet making out on the projector. They projected it into their closet, and then they traced it, painted it. So when you open the linen closet or the towel closet in their hallway at their house, it's Mrs. Krabappel and Principal Skinner making out.
Oh my God.
I was like, full genius.
That's oh my God. The subtle hidden stuff like that. You gotta love it.
So if you close the door, it just looks like, oh, a nice house. And then you open the door and you're like, Principal Skinner and Mrs. Krabappel are in a closet making babies, and one of the babies looked at me.
That's awesome.
I
I have to go look at that now.
I'll send you the pictures. It's pretty awesome. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think I've said my piece.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends. That's how we grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com, Twitter at ShyFanPat2 or AlexanderJPatCreative.com for all the cool stuff that Alex does. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. Until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears. Oh, when the Bears go bearing down